What we call the secret to happiness is no more than our willingness to live again. Hi, my name's Linda, and I am a widow. And I was 32 when I was widowed, and I stole this comment off somebody else's video, so I hope you don't mind that I'm responding. When we are entrenched in grief, it feels, especially early on, it feels like we'll never be happy again. And we realized that a lot of our happiness came from our loved one who passed away. They were so much a part of our habits and our daily life and our experiences and the things that brought us joy, from their love and their attention to the things we did together. And when that is gone, it's devastating. It is devastating. I think with happiness, you have to do the work. You have to do the grief work. Go to the therapy, read the books, join support groups. You have to be willing to feel those things that are so excruciatingly painful. And then you have to make plans for joy. And that may seem weird, but it's no different than making goals we had before. And when you find something that doesn't work, you do something different. One tool I used to finding joy again was to build joy momentum through something I call a joy list. And so I have a list on my phone that if I have 15 minutes, how can I bring myself joy? If I have an hour, if I have 4 hours, if I have a day, if I have a weekend. On each of those time increments, I have a list of things I can do in that increment. If I have an hour, I can watch a show I enjoy. If I have 15 minutes, I can listen to a song. In an hour, I can take a bath and do some self-care or do an everything shower. If I have half a day, I can go to a movie and dinner with friends. Joy often comes from, and so what that joy list allows you to do, because sometimes in those moments when we find ourselves with free time, we don't know what to do to add those in. And when we're adding in little glimmers of joy into our life, then we can build momentum. We can build, because at first it feels like everything feels terrible. And there is no joy and sadness to be found. And when we add in little moments and little pockets of joy, it gives us kind of like a break from our grief. And we can build more momentums, more moments where we find joy. The other thing I think that you have to do is the old ways that used to make you happy probably aren't going to make you happy, or they're not an option because our person isn't there. And so you have to try and do new things that might bring you joy again, whether that's activities you liked, whether that's going back out with friends, whether that's finding new things that bring you solace. And another thing I think that can bring you joy, and especially since, again, when you lost your loved one, that joy was encompassed with them, is I think you have to find a healthy way to have continuing bonds with them. And so what I mean by continuing bonds is our loved ones, even though they have died, live on in us. They live in our heart, they live in our memory, and loving them is often an active thing that we currently do. I still love my late husband. I still talk about him. So those are things I'm doing in the present. And when I create a bond with him and I interact with my love for him, I'm continuing my bond with him. Ways I continue bonds is writing him letters, visiting his grave, talking about him, doing things that he would have loved to do, or eating food. So I still share a bond with him, and that still brings me a joy. I honor him. That still brings me joy. It's different because things have to change. So finding moments of joy can help build your joy momentum. Creating and continuing bond with your loved one who's passed, I think, are ways that it can bring joy. And integrating things back in your life that brought you joy. And the very last thing is, I think you have to give yourself permission to live. Give yourself permission to live, because I think that we give ourselves a lot of guilt in grief about living again because we feel guilty we're living because they can't experience those things. And ultimately, I would hope that your loved one would have wanted you to be happy and have happiness in your life. And while I can't speak for them, I hope you want happiness and joy in your life. And continuing living is a way we honor them. They can't continue living and they can't continue to do those things, but we can. And after a while, those clouds of grief start to lift. And it's not that we don't still feel those things, it's not that we still don't feel that grief, but the heaviness of it tends to lift as we move forward. We can't set up camp and live in the grief, but we can move forward, and we are going to have to start a new life because who we were and what we used to do is different now. We are going to have to rebuild ourselves often from the ground up. That might mean new friends, that might mean new jobs, that might mean new hobbies. We literally are going through a grief rebirth, and it is painful and it is hard. But there can be joy again. There can be light again in your life, and you learn to incorporate the grief as it carries with you always. And I hope this helps.